Every year, thousands of business owners go to prison, not because they meant to break the law, but because they had no idea they already had. Today, we are going to make sure that never happens to you. Welcome back. In this video, we are breaking down criminal liability in business law, what it means, how it works, and why understanding it could literally keep you out of handcuffs. By the end of this video, you will understand what makes a crime in the eyes of the law, how businesses and individuals can both be held criminally responsible, what the most common white-collar crimes look like, how the Constitution protects people accused of crimes, and what defenses actually hold up in court. Let us get into it. Section 1. What is a crime and how is it different from a civil wrong? Most people know the word crime, but very few people understand exactly what separates a crime from a regular legal dispute. Here is the core difference. When someone commits a civil wrong, say they break a contract or cause an accident, the victim sues them. The dispute is between two private parties. But when someone commits a crime, the government steps in. The case is not Jones versus Smith. It is the state versus Smith, or the United States versus Smith. Society itself is considered the victim. Now, for something to qualify as a crime, two key elements usually have to be present. The first is called actus reus, which is just a Latin term meaning a guilty act. Something actually had to happen. A bad thought sitting in someone's head is not a crime. The second element is called mens rea, which means a guilty mind. In most cases, the person had to intend to do something wrong. Accident and intent are two very different things in the eyes of the law. Here is where it gets interesting for business owners. Some crimes do not require intent at all. These are called strict liability crimes. If your company illegally dumps chemicals in a river, it does not matter whether you knew it was illegal. The act itself is enough. That concept is going to come back in a big way when we talk about corporate liability. And speaking of corporations, can a company actually go to prison? Stay with us. Section 2. Corporate and individual criminal liability. Here is a question most business students never think about. If a corporation commits a crime, who gets punished? The building? The logo? This is where the law gets genuinely fascinating. Courts have established that yes, corporations can be held criminally liable. A company is treated as a legal person in many situations, which means it can be charged, tried, and fined. Now, obviously you cannot put a company in jail, so the punishment usually comes in the form of massive fines, loss of licenses, court-ordered compliance programs, or even forced dissolution, which means the company gets shut down entirely. But here is the part that makes executives very nervous. Criminal liability does not stop at the corporate level. Individual employees, managers, and executives can be personally charged as well, even if they did not personally carry out the illegal act. If a manager knew that employees were committing fraud and did nothing to stop it, that manager may face criminal charges. If a CEO created a culture that pressured employees to falsify records, that CEO could be in serious legal trouble. The legal principle at work here is sometimes called respondeat superior for the company, meaning the employer is responsible for acts done by employees within the scope of their work. But individuals are also responsible for their own choices and their failure to act when they had a duty to act. Now you might be wondering, what kinds of crimes actually show up most often in the business world? Great question. Section 3. White-collar crimes. The term white-collar crime was coined in 1939, and it refers to financially motivated, nonviolent crimes committed by businesses or business professionals. Do not let the word nonviolent fool you. These crimes cause enormous damage. Billions of dollars lost, retirement accounts wiped out, employees left without jobs or pensions. Let us walk through the most common ones. Fraud is probably the broadest category. It means intentionally deceiving someone for financial gain. That could be falsifying financial statements to attract investors, lying to a bank to get a loan, or running a billing scheme to overcharge clients. Wire fraud and mail fraud specifically involve using electronic communications or postal mail as part of the scheme, and those are federal crimes. Embezzlement is when someone steals money that was entrusted to them. Think of a bookkeeper who quietly transfers company funds into their personal account. The money was legally in their hands. They just were not supposed to keep it. Bribery involves offering something of value to influence someone's actions, especially a government official. If a contractor pays a city inspector to ignore building code violations, Both parties could face criminal charges. And then there is insider trading, using private, non-public information to make stock trades before the rest of the market knows what you know. This one catches a surprising number of executives who thought they were being smart. They were being criminal. But what rights do accused individuals actually have? Let us talk about that. Section 4. Constitutional protections for the accused. The United States Constitution puts serious limits on what the government can do when it investigates and prosecutes crimes. These protections exist for everyone, including business owners and executives under investigation. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Law enforcement generally needs a warrant to search your business, your files, or your computer systems. Evidence obtained illegally may be thrown out of court entirely. The Fifth Amendment gives people the right not to incriminate themselves. You have the right to remain silent. In a business context, this means executives cannot be forced to testify against themselves in criminal proceedings. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the right to a speedy trial, the right to know the charges against you, and the right to have an attorney. And if you cannot afford one, the government must provide one. These protections are not loopholes. They are the foundation of a fair justice system. Understanding them helps businesses know their rights during investigations. Now, even with all this, sometimes people still face charges. What defenses can actually work? Section 5. Common criminal defenses. Even when someone is accused of a crime, the law recognizes that context matters. There are several defenses that can reduce or eliminate criminal liability. Duress means someone was forced to commit a crime under threat of serious harm. If an employee falsified documents because their supervisor threatened their job and their family, that context matters to a court. Entrapment happens when law enforcement induces someone to commit a crime they would not have otherwise committed. This defense requires showing that the criminal idea originated with the government, not the defendant. Mistake of fact is another defense. If someone genuinely and reasonably believed something was legal based on incorrect information, that honest mistake may be a valid defense, particularly in complex regulatory environments. And intoxication, in limited cases, can negate the required mental intent for certain crimes, though courts are very careful about this one. Understanding these defenses matters, because smart business people build compliance programs, keep records, and get proper legal advice precisely so that if they ever face scrutiny, they can demonstrate good faith. All right, let us bring it home. Criminal liability in business is not just a law school concept. It is a real risk that affects real companies and real people every single day. We covered what makes something a crime, how both corporations and individuals face liability, the white-collar crimes that show up most often, the constitutional protections every accused person has, and the defenses the law recognizes. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more students and business owners who need this information. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter breakdown. And drop a comment below with your biggest question about business law. We read every single one. See you in the next video.